The silence in the hospital room was louder than any scream. Machines beeped steadily, indifferent to my collapsing world as the doctor delivered the final blow. We did everything we could. I looked at our daughter sleeping in the corner chair, her tiny hands curled like her mother's. I had no idea how to tell her that Mama wasn't coming back. I didn't even know how to accept it myself. The bed felt unfamiliar. Cold. I stretched my hand to her side out of habit. Nothing but air and silence. It hit me again, this wasn't a nightmare. She was really gone. At 3 a.m., our daughter cried. Not from hunger or fear, but from a name she muttered in her sleep, Mama. I held her close, and for the first time, I let myself cry where she could see. I opened the closet to get something to wear for the funeral, and her scent floated out. Lavender and fresh cotton. I sank to my knees, burying my face in her favorite sweater. In that moment, I realized grief isn't loud. It's quiet, sneaky, living in the folds of fabric and the photos you can't take down. And I had a daughter who'd wake up needing breakfast in a few hours. I burnt the toast. Twice. She didn't complain. Just sat there, feet swinging off the chair, watching me with wide, confused eyes. Is Mama still sleeping? She asked. I froze. The truth sat heavy in my throat. No, sweetheart, I said softly, kneeling beside her. Mama's not coming back. But I'm here. And I'll never leave you. She picked shiny black shoes for the funeral, saying they looked like princess shoes. I smiled at her innocence, feeling guilty for the tiny joy I felt seeing her happy about anything. Everyone told me to be strong that day. But as they lowered the casket, and my daughter whispered goodbye to the wooden box, I collapsed inside. I was pretending to be strong. I wasn't. The dining table was quieter now. Her chair, the one with the faded cushion, remained untouched. Our daughter asked if we could set a plate for Mama, just in case. I said yes. It felt silly at first, but watching her talk to that empty seat, I realized she needed rituals. So did I. Sometimes, pretending she's still with us gave us enough strength to face the next minute. I was looking for insurance papers when I found her journal tucked behind old cookbooks. The pages were full of scribbles, love notes, frustrations, dreams. Reading it felt like hearing her voice again. She had worried about me being too serious as a dad. She prayed that I'd learn to dance with our daughter one day. That night, I promised her I would. The next evening, I put on the same song we danced to at our wedding. I took our daughter's hands and swayed clumsily. She giggled the whole time. My heart broke and healed in that same breath. We danced until the room was filled with laughter, and a sense of peace I hadn't felt since the funeral. It was the first time I believed maybe, just maybe, we were going to be okay. Filling out her kindergarten form, I paused at Mother's name. I left it blank. The blank space looked like a wound on the paper, and I wanted to scream at whoever designed the form. Instead, I wrote her name gently, with a note, deceased, but forever remembered. It felt right. She may be gone, but she's everywhere, in our daughter's laugh, her curls, her fierce little will. I took our daughter out for ice cream. She smiled the entire time. On the drive back, guilt crashed in. How could I laugh when my wife was gone? Then I remembered what she wrote in her journal, let joy live, even if I'm not there to witness it. That night, I framed that line. It became my daily permission to heal. Storytime used to be their thing. She had voices for every character. I didn't. I read flat and awkward, but our daughter snuggled in, patient and wide-eyed. By the third night, I was making up my own tales, ones where Mima lived in the stars and watched over us. She slept better after those. So did I. One morning, in her sleepy haze, she whispered, Mama, I want milk. She corrected herself immediately, but I told her it was okay. Because I was Mama and Papa now. That moment, strange as it was, made me realize how much I had stepped into unfamiliar shoes, and how they were slowly starting to fit. Our daughter begged to wear Mama's old scarf as a dress. I hesitated, then wrapped it around her. She twirled, calling it a magic cape. Watching her brought back memories of her mother doing the same thing with her grandmother's scarf. Legacy, I realized, isn't just what we leave behind, it's what we allow to live on. Where did Mama go when she died? She asked one night. I didn't have a perfect answer, but I told her what I believed, she went where love never dies. She thought for a moment, then said, then Mama's in my heart, too. I nodded, tears welling up. Children understand loss in ways we underestimate. They also teach us how to live with it. She always cooked from memory, no recipes, just instinct. I tried to recreate her chicken stew. It tasted wrong. But our daughter said it was perfect, because Daddy made it with love. That night, I stopped chasing perfection. I started chasing presence. Every meal, every moment, was no longer about filling a role, it was about honoring a bond. We were playing hide and seek, and our daughter laughed so hard she gave away her hiding spot. That laugh, it was hers. Her mother's. Bright, loud, contagious. For a second, it felt like she was still with us, living through our daughter's joy. I realized then, grief isn't the absence of the one you lost, it's learning to hear them in echoes. Her teacher said she was bright but quiet. That she often stared out the window, drawing hearts in the air. I knew who she was missing. I didn't want to fill the emptiness with distractions. So, I let her feel it, then reminded her, even when it hurts, Mama's proud of you. She smiled. A small smile, but real. She clutched flowers too big for her little hands and asked, "Will Mama see these?" I told her, she already has. We kneeled together by the headstone, tracing her name. My daughter sang a lullaby her mother used to hum. Birds seemed to be quiet. Wind held its breath. That day, the cemetery didn't feel like a place of endings, it felt like a sacred connection point. She used crayons on the wall when I wasn't looking. A stick figure family, Mama, Papa, and her, all holding hands. I nearly scolded her. But then I looked closely. Mama had wings. And a smile. I kissed her forehead and left the drawing there. Some stories deserve to be written in bold, colorful strokes, even on walls. Caught up in work and trying to hold it all together, I forgot the date. Her birthday. I sat in the bathroom floor that night, full of shame, whispering apologies into the dark. The next morning, I took the day off, baked a wonky cake, and we celebrated late, with extra candles, just to make up for it. Grief doesn't make you perfect. It just makes you try harder. Thunder roared through the night. She tiptoed into my room, blanket in hand. "Can I sleep with you, just for tonight?" I opened my arms without a word. She curled into me like she did the night her mother died. Safe. Loved. In that shared warmth, I remembered that some nights, even grown men need to be held by the memory of who they once were. We built a pillow fort in the living room. She made me wear a paper crown. We laughed until we were breathless. For the first time in months, I felt something other than loss. Joy, unexpected and pure, tiptoed back into our home. It didn't erase the pain, but it reminded me there was still color in the world, waiting to be noticed. She spilled juice on my laptop. Important work, gone. I yelled. She cried. The moment hung in the air like a punishment. I had promised myself I'd never shout. I sat on the floor beside her, held her tightly, and whispered, "I'm sorry." Forgiveness, I learned, starts with the courage to say you were wrong and mean it. I meant it. She had one line in the school play, "The world is full of magic if you believe." She stood there, nervous but glowing. I clapped louder than anyone. She ran to me after, asking if Mama would have been proud. I said, "She was the wind behind your voice." That night, we hung her costume next to her mother's favorite dress. An old friend of her mother's stopped by with a photo album. My daughter sat in awe, flipping through pages of a woman she was too young to fully remember. Each story the friend told gave life to memories I couldn't have shared alone. I realized then that I wasn't the only keeper of her mother's legacy, and that I didn't have to do it all on my own. I found an old box labeled "For Later." Her handwriting. Inside were notes, letters, little trinkets, one for every milestone in our daughter's future. I gave her the letter marked for when she starts school. It read, "Be kind. Be brave. And always listen to Papa, he's stronger than he knows." I read it aloud. We both cried. She said, "Everyone at school has a baby brother or sister. Why don't I?" The question stunned me. My heart caught fire with love and sorrow all at once. I told her gently, "Some families are just two people full of love, and that's more than enough." She nodded, then whispered, "Okay. But can we get a puppy instead?" I laughed. Relief tastes like a child's smile. It was a chance meeting at a bookstore. A single conversation turned into two. Then coffee. Then walk. Guilt wrapped around me like fog. Was it betrayal? Or a step forward? I spoke to her photo that night, asking for grace. I didn't have answers, but I knew I was still alive. And maybe I was allowed to feel again. My daughter met her. Innocent and curious. She called her by her first name, not Mama, and I felt a strange relief. I watched them laugh together over coloring books. My daughter looked at me and said, "She's nice. But don't worry, Mama still lives in my heart." Kids have a way of saying what we're too scared to admit. The first Christmas without her was brutal. I tried to decorate, but every ornament felt like it belonged in another lifetime. Even the lights seemed dimmer. We ended up skipping the tree. Instead, we wrote letters to Mama and burned them in the fireplace, imagining the smoke carrying our words to the stars. It became our new tradition. A fever. Just a fever. But it triggered every worst-case scenario in my head. I stayed up all night watching her breathe, remembering hospital monitors and unanswered prayers. When she finally said, "I'm okay, Daddy," I broke. Because fear never leaves a grieving heart, it just sleeps until shaken awake. That night, I held her tighter than ever before. The late hours, the missed milestones, I couldn't do it anymore. My daughter needed presents, not presents. I walked into my boss's office and handed in my resignation. I didn't have a backup plan. Just a fire in my chest and a deep sense that it was time to rebuild, not just for her, but for me too. Sometimes survival means starting over. I began making handcrafted toys, something I used to do with my wife. Word spread. Orders came in. It wasn't just income, it was healing. Each toy carried a piece of our story. I carved love into every curve. I was no longer a man lost in grief, I was a father creating joy out of broken pieces. She woke up screaming one night, tears streaming. I dreamed Mama was lost and couldn't find me. I hugged her until her breathing slowed. Then I told her, "Mama never left you. She's in your smile, in your dreams, in how you hug me." She fell asleep gripping my thumb. Some reassurances are whispered more for ourselves than for them. She burst into the kitchen, grinning through a bloody gap. "I'm growing up," she declared, tooth in hand. I laughed and cried all at once. Her mother would have made a huge deal of it, glitter, fairy notes, everything. I did my best. That night, I placed a gold coin under her pillow, whispering, "She's watching you grow. So am I." Our daughter stood on stage, her voice steady despite the crowd. When she sang the last note, the applause was thunderous, my heart soaring with pride and grief intertwined. I realized that grief doesn't diminish love, it deepens it. Every achievement was a tribute to her mother's unspoken dreams and my new strength. I helped her write a letter to her future self, full of hope, courage, and love. I told her to read it on tough days and remember how far she'd come. In her words, I saw resilience I hadn't known I could foster. Sometimes, the best lessons we teach are the ones we learn alongside them. We planted a rose bush in the backyard. "For Mama," she said, pressing the tiny plant into the earth with care. Watching it grow was like watching her heal. Every bloom was a reminder that life continues, even after loss. That beauty can grow from grief if you nurture it patiently. Our first trip without her was bittersweet. Every quiet moment held memories and moments of aching absence. But our daughter's laughter filled the spaces. Traveling together taught us that family isn't defined by who's missing, but by who's present, and how much love they bring to the journey. "Daddy, will I ever find someone to love like Mama?" she asked quietly one evening. I hesitated but answered honestly, "Love comes in many forms. And love for Mama will always be with us." Her eyes shone with understanding beyond her years. I knew then that even in loss, hope for the future can bloom gently. We lay on blankets in the backyard, watching constellations. She pointed to a bright star and said, "That's Mama, watching us." I squeezed her hand and told her that no matter where life takes us, we carry the ones we love inside. Sometimes, healing looks like stargazing and simply being together. I made friends with other single parents at the park. Their stories echoed mine: loss, fear, hope. Together, we built a small community of healing. I learned that strength isn't always solitary. Sometimes, it's the quiet support of those who understand without words. She displayed paintings she made of her family, each stroke a burst of color and emotion. She handed me one with a big red heart in the center. "Love is everywhere, Daddy," she said simply. I realized art wasn't just her expression, it was our shared language of survival and love. Some days, words fail. We sat together in silence, holding hands. No explanations. No tears. Just presence. I learned that sometimes love is quiet, and that silence can be a place where healing grows deeper roots. Every night, before sleep, she looked into my eyes and said, "I love you, Daddy." My answer was always the same: "I love you more." Those simple words became our shield against loneliness and despair. They reminded me daily that even in loss, love is our greatest discovery. Her favorite stuffed bear tore during a rough play. She looked up at me, expecting sadness or anger. Instead, I said, "Let's fix it together." Sitting side by side with needle and thread, I realized healing is not just for hearts, it's for everything that's broken. And sometimes, broken things still hold all the love we need. She brought home a new friend from school. I watched them play and saw the first signs of normalcy returning to her world. It was a reminder that even after the darkest storms, children find light and new connections that help them grow beyond pain. She started giving me little notes, "Thank you, Daddy," or "You're my hero." I kept them in a small box, reading them when I doubted myself. Those notes were more than words, they were lifelines, proof that my love and effort mattered more than I ever knew. When snow fell for the first time, she stared in wonder, catching flakes on her tongue. We built a snowman, imperfect but ours. In that simple moment, I understood, joy is not about perfection, it's about being present and making memories, one small snowflake at a time. She wrote a letter to her mother, folding it carefully and placing it by her photo. I read it silently, full of love, questions, and hope. It was a brave act, a bridge between past and present, and it taught me that grieving is not forgetting, but learning to carry love forward. Mornings used to be the hardest, quiet, empty, and cold. Now, we created new rituals, breakfast together, shared stories, and silly dances in the kitchen. Routine didn't mean normal, it meant building a new life, brick by brick, with love as our foundation. One afternoon, she blurted out, "I miss Mama so much it hurts." I swallowed my own grief and held her close. I told her it was okay to miss her, that missing is love's echo. Together, we cried and then laughed, knowing we were never truly alone. She went on her first school trip without me hovering. I felt a knot in my stomach, but cheered her on anyway. When she came back glowing with stories, I realized that letting go is part of love, and trust is the gift we give each other. I found an old playlist her mother had made, songs full of memories and emotions. We listened together, dancing and sometimes sitting quietly. Music became our invisible bridge, connecting past to present, sadness to joy, and me to her in ways words couldn't. We packed sandwiches and a blanket, escaping the walls that held too many memories. We watched the clouds drift and told stories about what if and maybe someday. Those simple moments taught me that healing often lives in ordinary days filled with love and laughter. She wrote a poem about her mother, simple, raw, and beautiful. I read it aloud with tears in my eyes. Her words held a wisdom beyond her years. In that poem, I saw how grief can transform into creativity, turning pain into a voice that reaches beyond sorrow. She learned to ride her bike without training wheels. I cheered louder than anyone else, proud of her courage and balance. Those small victories reminded me that growth often comes step by step, and every wobble is part of the journey. We got caught in the rain on the way home. Instead of rushing, we danced and splashed in puddles, laughing like children free of worries. Sometimes, letting go means embracing the unexpected and finding joy in the storm. I wrote a letter to my younger self, the man lost in grief. I promised to be patient, to forgive, and to keep fighting for our daughter's happiness. Self-compassion became the anchor I needed to keep moving forward. She sang a song she wrote for her mother. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. I realized then that storytelling isn't just about sharing pain, it's about celebrating love, memory, and the courage to carry on. I met another single dad at the playground. We shared stories, fears, and small victories. Suddenly, I wasn't alone in this journey. Friendship became a new kind of family, one built on shared understanding and support. She started keeping a diary, filling it with thoughts, dreams, and questions about life and loss. I found it one day and read a page that said, "Daddy is my hero." My heart swelled with pride and humility. Her project was about family. She proudly showed a picture of the three of us, explaining with innocence and love. It reminded me how children see strength where adults often see struggle. After a heavy rain, we spotted a rainbow. She smiled and said, "Mama is sending us hope." I realized hope is often a choice, a light we decide to follow, even on the darkest days. We danced in the living room, no music, just the sound of our laughter and footsteps. In those moments, I found joy again. Not the absence of pain, but the presence of love. I found a letter my wife wrote but never sent. It was filled with dreams for our daughter's future. Reading it felt like receiving a gift from the past, a reminder that love transcends time and space. We spent a whole day without speaking. Instead, we communicated through smiles, hugs, and shared glances. Sometimes, Presence speaks louder than words, especially when hearts are healing. She fell and scraped her knee. I kissed it better, telling her it was okay to get hurt sometimes. Life's wounds teach resilience, and healing comes with love and patience. I dreamed of her mother, smiling and telling me to keep going. I woke up with a sense of peace, knowing that love never truly leaves us. We planted a tree together, symbolizing growth, strength, and new beginnings. As it grew, so did our hope, rooted in love, watered by memories, reaching toward the future. She received a certificate for kindness. Proud doesn't begin to cover how I felt. It was a sign that love and loss could coexist, and she was growing into her own light. An old friend stopped by unexpectedly, reminding me that life still held moments of joy and connection. Sometimes, healing comes through the kindness of others. We framed a photo of the three of us, placing it where sunlight would hit every morning. It was a daily reminder that love endures, even in absence. We adopted a puppy, and chaos and laughter filled the house. New life brought fresh energy, reminding us that happiness could be found again. She came home crying after a friend stopped talking to her. I held her and said, "Sometimes hearts break so they can grow bigger." She played the lead role, shining bright on stage. Watching her, I saw the strength her mother left behind. It was proof that life, even after loss, still holds beautiful moments. She asked me to help write a letter to her future husband, explaining what love means to her. Together, we wrote words full of hope and lessons learned through pain. The first holiday felt hollow. We created new traditions, lighting a candle in her memory. It was a way to honor the past while embracing the present. We lay under the stars, sharing stories about her mother. I realized memories keep loved ones alive in our hearts forever. She entered her teenage years with grace and courage, facing new challenges head-on. I felt proud and humbled to walk beside her on this journey. She started at a new school. The first day was tough, full of nerves and uncertainty. I reminded her that change is scary but often brings growth and new friendships. We visited the house where her mother grew up. Walking those halls, memories flooded us both. It was a sacred moment, honoring roots while building our own path forward. She struggled with anger about losing her mother. We talked about forgiveness, for others and ourselves. I learned that healing sometimes means letting go of blame and embracing compassion. We joined a local community event for single parents. Sharing stories helped us feel less isolated. Together, we found strength in shared experiences. She got her first part-time job. I watched her balance work and school with pride and a touch of worry. It was another step toward independence and self-discovery. She walked across the stage to receive her diploma. I held back tears, overwhelmed with pride and gratitude. Her journey from loss to triumph was a testament to resilience and love's power. She handed me a letter, thanking me for being her strength when she needed it most. Reading her words, I realized how much we had both grown through pain and healing. She told me about her first crush. I listened carefully, knowing that love would always be complicated but beautiful. I encouraged her to embrace every emotion with courage and honesty. We gathered with extended family, sharing stories, laughter, and tears. Together, we celebrated the past and embraced the future, stronger and united. She shared her dreams for the future, a family, a career, a life filled with love and purpose. I knew her mother would be proud. We moved into a new house, filling it with memories old and new. It was a fresh start, symbolizing growth and hope. We painted a portrait of our family, imperfect but full of love. Art became a way to express what words sometimes couldn't. One morning, I watched her sleep peacefully, grateful for every moment we had together. Life's fragility made every breath more precious. She gave a speech at a local event about overcoming adversity. Her courage inspired others, proving that pain can be transformed into strength. We sat under the night sky, sharing dreams and silent prayers. I felt her mother's presence, surrounding us with love and light. Our garden flourished, a living symbol of growth, healing, and care. We tended it together, nurturing life just as we nurtured each other. She took her first solo trip, a step toward independence. I trusted the foundation we built to carry her confidently forward. She wrote letters to her future children, sharing the lessons she learned about love and loss. The cycle of love and healing continues. On the anniversary of her mother's passing, we honored her with stories, music, and love. Grief was still present, but it no longer defined us. Through losing her mother, I found my own strength, my purpose, and a deeper love than I ever knew possible. We were forever changed, but we were whole together. Moral of the story: Sometimes, losing someone we love deeply can feel like losing ourselves. But through love, patience, and courage, we can discover new strengths, heal old wounds, and create a future filled with hope. In loss, we can find ourselves.